Hey everyone, thanks for watching the CB vlog right here on YouTube. You know what to do. If you want to help out the show, you can hit subscribe. It really does a lot. Leave a comment. That's also great. Or if you want to help out directly, go to patreon.com/commandersbrew and directly donate to the show and get in on our Discord and some other perks as well and help out, get a real hands-on experience helping out the show. But without further ado, we're going to get into today's topic of discussion, which is
your Commandfest prep guide.
Ooh, yes.
Yeah, and it also works for any other big events too, right? But a lot of Commandfests happening. You're hearing this not too long after Commandfest DC. We were recording this beforehand, so you can't use this to prep for that one, but you can use it to prep for future ones or future GPs or anything.
Yeah, Magicfests, and we assume there will be more commanders on the horizon. So we assume that this will be something that you can look back on, in the future as well.
And I do hope that when the next Commandfests come out, they give us more than a couple of weeks notice for the first one.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
Honestly, be very helpful.
Yeah, but so we're going to talk about a Commandfest prep guide. So like when you got to bring a bunch of decks to these kinds of things, even if you're going to a regular GP like I would do, I'm there just to play Commander with people. So even if it's not a Commandfest, you got to prepare for it. So what kinds of decks are you going to bring? How many decks are you going to bring? A couple of bonus tips. That's what we're going to cover today. And I think the main thing you got to ask yourself is, how much room do you have to bring decks? How many decks can you bring reasonably and also close? Because like I know for me it's like I'm planning on maybe buying a shirt. I'm gonna buy a playmat with a tube. Maybe I'll get some other souvenirs. So I can't pack my suitcase like 100%. I need to add that extra room, so I can't just put in my whole deck collection. So Andy, how many decks do you bring to these things?
It's tough. I like to bring a lot of variety, although at first I was bringing a lot more, and I've definitely pared it down now that I've been to a couple, because now I know how it works and what it's going to look like, what each day is going to look like. So if you're relatively new, you might overestimate some of these things like I did, which is I think why this is actually really useful vlog topic for this week. So I like to bring like 4 decks per any given day. So
4 decks for the day.
4 decks for the day, and probably between like I'll bring like 8 to 10 for the whole trip if it's like a 3-day event. If it's a 2-day event, I'm bringing like 6 probably. And I like that. I like to bring that many because I like to get a little bit of a spectrum of different types of decks for different types of situations. What about you? How many do you like to bring? You generally, I know, bring less than I do. Yeah. Trip wise, but I've kind of picked up on your bringing like how many do you bring per day as well?
So I bring 4 per day because that's how many fit in my archive box.
Yep.
I bring 4 that way, and I bring an extra empty box that in case I pick up new cards, that's where those go. Mm-hmm. If I end up doing a side draft, which happens at regular GPs more traditionally, I'll put the ones I want to keep out of that. If you just pick up anything like that.
Very important. Great point. I was thinking of it myself. I'm glad you said it. Bring an empty box. Very, very important.
An empty box of cards, something to protect them. Yeah, so I bring 4 for the day, and I'll probably bring, like, I don't bring 4 per day in the whole trip. I'll probably bring 6 to 8. I'm aiming to bring 8 to Commandfest DC, and that's a record for me. I've never brought 8 decks to an event before.
I remember when we started, I remember once I brought like 14 decks to like GP Toronto, and you had like 2. So we're kind of fighting this middle ground where we're both sort of landing in the same thing. I'm coming down, you're going up.
Well, one of the surprising things for me anyway was like there really isn't enough time to play as much as you want. There never is.
Yeah.
So you're not going to, because don't forget, you have to also eat food, right? And you have to like rest and maybe, and especially like at a Commandfest, I'm going to want to watch some panels. I'm going to want to do some shopping at the different booths and check out Artist Alley. So realistically, you might not have time for many more than 4 games if like you're if you're just kind of casually playing. Sometimes these games go a little while. Sometimes you wait for them to begin. So bringing too many more than 4 per day seems a bit redundant. Now, you don't want to bring too few so that you're playing the same 4 decks all the time and you get a little bit bored of it. So that's why I'm thinking I'm looking to bring the variety this time.
Yeah, it sucks when you have... I think it happened to you once where, again, early days, one of those days where I think you only brought like 1 or 2 decks or something, because we're in Toronto. You don't have to lug it around like a hotel or something. But it was like, I remember there was a point where it's like, oh, we're going to start another game. And you were like, I played this deck like 3 times today. Like, I'm kind of tired of it. Like, I'm going to go walk around. And it's like, oh man, we wanted to you kind of want to jam as many games as you can, but you got to be careful not to tire yourself out from one deck.
Yeah. So let's spend a second and talk about like the makeup of decks that you bring. What do you want to bring? Now, what we haven't addressed is like they often have like little pod events where you can sign up with an event ticket and you play in a competitive pod. So if that's your plan, you probably want to bring your most competitive deck. You know the answer to this is like maybe you never will get bored of that deck. So you can play, so that will cover that. So you should bring 1 competitive deck at least. Even if you're playing casually, yeah, we use competitive in quotes. Even if you're playing casually, sometimes the group, they all bring more competitive level decks. So you should have one that can run with them.
Exactly.
So that's 1 deck. You should bring one of those.
Yep, I always like to bring one of my more high-powered decks, just so sometimes there's a game where it's like I just want to roll with these guys. I just want to sit and play. If you're sitting down with Josh and you're playing with Josh Lee Kwai, you're playing with a DJ, like those guys have good decks, man. They've got cool and unique brews too, but like they've got heavy decks, so sometimes you want to just roll with them. Speaking of unique brews, I mean that's my favorite part. That's our favorite thing about Commander. So you gotta bring an off the wall deck. You gotta bring something that's very unique to maybe your own style, or maybe something from either our show or some other show that you like, and you don't think you're going to see a lot of that day or that whole weekend, perhaps. Always love to bring these. These are like kind of the meme decks. These are the ones people are going to take pictures of. Like one of the ones that stood out to me over the last few years of going to events was when, and I wasn't in the game, so I didn't catch the person's name. But the guy who had a Dungeons and Dragons, like he was the dungeon master, and he created these like play experiences for his Commander game. So like basically his deck was just like different dungeons. We talked about it when it happened. It was with GP Vegas 2 years ago, I think. But like that deck has just stuck in my memory. I know Commanderin talked a lot about it because I think Phil was playing on that game. I bet you the guys over at Commander Social talked about it as well at the time. But it was just like that's a deck we all came away from that day talking about because it was so fun. It was so cool to see it work. So bring those decks not only to get people talking, but just to have fun. People are going to have a lot of fun. They're going to want to sit down and play with those decks. So, if you got a happily ever after deck, run it and see how it goes.
I know who that is by face. This is my weakness. I'm great with faces, but names start to bunch together. So I'm quickly scrolling down Twitter for I know their Twitter picture.
Oh,
too.
Really? Okay.
So if I see them in the next little bit, I will absolutely let you know. If you know who we're talking about, I feel off. This person also gave me a cool idea for the buying off of Amazon, the blank cards,
which we use for Battle of Brews. That's right. Okay, I got these.
True.
I got the blank cards right here. Oh wow, that's crazy. They're like it's like see-through with the green screen.
Neat.
Okay,
so
yeah, go ahead.
So bring your weirdest deck. Bring the deck that's the most creative because that's what it's all about as well.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think also like bring a mid-level deck.
Yes. Bring
a deck that is and so this is something I'm about to learn. I haven't been to a public Commander event in quite some time. GPLA, I think, was maybe our last big trip, and that one wasn't Commander focused. This one is.
Yeah, that was before even the Command Zone things that they're doing at.
That's right.
At the Magicfest now. So it's been a while.
So if we're gonna if all the words that we hear are true, that there are more new players than ever, then people are joining Commander at a greater rate, then you can probably expect a wider range of decks and a wider range of experienced players. This could be someone's first big event, and maybe they've only got a pre-con that's tuned a little bit. That might be where they're at. So you want to be able to play with those people. I say that like maybe you don't. Maybe you're just like, nope, only competitive.
Yeah.
That's valid. I would love to be able to play with everybody.
Yeah.
So if in that regard, I'm gonna bring one mid-power deck that like sometimes does its thing, but it doesn't have the most tuned cards for it.
Um, and like, you know, a lot of this is kind of like tuned to yourself, right? What is a mid-level deck? For me, it might be very different for someone else, right? So you kind of, for this one, I think actually you kind of get a feel for it the first day you go. You'll start playing with people. You'll see what's being played, especially if you've never been to one of these things before. It's going to be like a bit of a shock, one way or the other, whether it's like, oh, this is not as powerful as my meta at home, or this is way more powerful. Generally, I think it's going to be more powerful, but that's just me. Anyways, so, you know, that's why we're saying bring this kind of range of decks. A very competitive one if you want to, you know, roll with those guys. A mid-level one so that you can that's just kind of can be your default. Low-powered decks, we have here just like if in case there's someone who's some newer players, some people just running these types of decks, maybe even like theme decks, right? And that kind of falls into the uniquely creative deck as well. Like these kind of overlap, but you know, you can kind of make one of these like fun decks a lower power deck, just because sometimes you'll also like get a feel for like a group, like there might be a group of players there and you're like, oh, these guys run like slightly lower powered decks, so like I want to roll with them, and I don't want to be the person who's just stomping them into the ground on turn 3, you know, like I want to actually roll with these low powered decks. So especially if you're like a person who at home has a very powerful meta. I know we've sat down at GPs before and we play against people and they're like, oh man, like my decks are all too powerful for you guys, you know? And they're like, okay, I guess I'll just like hold back a bunch of cards. Like, that's not super fun either. You want to limit your power through your cards, not through your actions. Like, you want to be still playing the hardest you can. That's still so fun. Like, that's why I think that it's a good idea to bring a lower powered deck. Like, play to all your outs, play to your strategic, stretch your mind, make it work. But just like, you know, I'm playing with cards that aren't that good.
I found the Twitter handle of the person who invented the D&D deck. He goes by Patapit Patapit.
At Patapit.
Yeah. Hope to run into you. I feel bad I can't remember human names. I remember profile names better than human names. But yeah, great. And then I think this is an idea that Andy brought up that is great. Bring one aggressive deck. Bring like a deck that wants to win fast, that goes hard, because sometimes the table's just like, hey, do you want to have a game? It's like, oh, I got to get to this panel in a little bit, or like I am starving and I got to meet my pals in an hour to eat. It's like, well, let's just play our decks that win fast, right? Our aggressive decks are decks that go fast, that aren't like necessarily whatever your version of fast is. Bring fast decks so that you can squeeze in those little games whenever you can.
I love a deck that wins fast but also loses fast. You know, it can like Greven is the perfect example of that, where we're using our life total like crazy, trying to kill people as fast as we can, but also you might just lose really quickly, which is just as good when you're in a hurry. So that's fine.
Just as good.
Yeah,
great.
And of course, your favorite deck, just in general. If you have just a deck that you love for whatever any of these reasons are, obviously bring it. I mean, that goes without saying. You're going to bring your favorite deck. So yeah, just but getting this range is where you, I think, is important. Is where you want to be. You'll be able to play the maximum number of games this way.
Yeah, and if that's your goal, this will help out.
Exactly.
Yeah, and then extra, I think for Commandfest, like make sure you bring a trade binder, right? Like I bet you this will be the environment for the most trades.
Yeah, absolutely. It can be tougher if you're trying to like pull off trades where you're getting maximum value and stuff like that, just because like especially at this event, and like Jason Alt is a Brainstorm Brewery, really big proponents of this, which is Commander players, their best trade partners are standard players and vice versa, right? Because you're looking to offload cards that are expensive now that you don't really need for Commander, and they're looking to offload cards that are not expensive or maybe are mid-range expensive but are not at all useful in in standard. And a lot of times that overlaps, and you can even go back. It's not just standard, but like for modern and stuff like that too. So those are your best trade partners for like value wise, but always important to bring a good trade binder, because people are running all kinds of stuff. People have been playing forever. You're going to find someone who's got some cool stuff that you can get for, just trading in cards. It's great.
Yeah. And a portable water bottle. Don't forget that.
Got to bring that. Yeah, stay hydrated. Stay full with food. Regular GP stuff.
Yeah,
Don't forget. And this is hot tip. Don't forget about services like Uber Eats, Skip the Dishes, that kind of stuff, because food options are not always great in these places. In fact, sometimes they're downright dismal, depending on where you are. And it's just, especially if like in Toronto, like the convention center is like not, it's like kind of far away from the city and like the main stuff.
Yeah,
So
you can't walk to a little plaza with a bunch of options from our convention
and
center.
the food inside is bad. So or like super expensive. So like one time we used Uber Eats and we got good food for not much less or more, like around the same that you would pay in the place. So keep an eye out for that.
Yeah, you're going to pay that premium for that delivery, but if you're already overpaying for stuff, it might as well be food you like.
Exactly.
Oh man, great tips.
Hot tips.
If you've got some other tips, please let us know. Reply to us on Twitter or in the comments or somehow with your best Commandfest or GP tips.
Otherwise, yeah, we'll let us know, and we will see you next time. Thanks for watching this week's vlog.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for watching. If you love what we're doing, consider supporting the show by going to patreon.com/commandersbrew.
And if you want to get any of the cards from our deck list, go to our TCGplayer affiliate link below.
That helps us out too. And for a free way to help us out, consider sharing the show with some friends. Like and subscribe, add a comment or two.
See you later.
Bye.